Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Abiodun Babalola.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, it's a sad day in Benway State as some persons suspected to be gunmen abduct about 20 medical students on their way to Enugu State, just as the Anambra State Commissioner for Youth and his wife are abducted in a separate attack on their way to Kogi State. Federal government commences the construction of 10 new oncology and diagnostic centers across the country's 6 geopolitical zones. Says aim is to enhance access to world-class oncology care as well as reduce cancer-related deaths. Legal luminary and founder of Babalola University at Ekiti, Chief Babalola describes the End Bad Governance protest that rocked some parts of the country as a reflection of the nation's situation. Says protesters only expressing the reality of most Nigerians. And as the governorship elections in Edo and Ondo states beckon, the National Peace Committee promises to work with the Nigeria police to scale up the level of prosecution of electoral offenders in the country.
On business news, the federal government slashes internal revenue deduction from aviation agencies to 20% from 50% following earlier planned nationwide strike by union.
On sports, former Super Eagles coach Samson Siasia completes a 5-year ban imposed by FIFA for match-fixing allegations.
And from Abuja, the nation's capital, the National Judicial Council sets up 4 committees to investigate erring judicial officers.
And in international news from London, officials say a Palestinian man was shot dead as dozens of Israeli settlers attacked a village in the north of the occupied West Bank overnight, setting fire to houses and cars.
The police in Benway State have confirmed the kidnapping of about 20 medical students who were on their way to Enugu State, passing through Otukpo local government area in Benway State. The students were said to be traveling on a convoy of 2 buses and were coming from the northern part of the country when they ran into the ambush on Thursday evening. The police public relations officer for Benway Command, Siwese Anene, confirmed this to journalists.
And somewhere around Otukpo, one of the students informed them that they ran into some armed men who kidnapped the vehicle. That was the last communication they had. Actually, she was talking with that particular person while the incident happened. So I sent that report down to Otukpo and to the Commissioner of Police, who has already taken action. Men have been deployed, intelligence is being gathered. And investigation is ongoing. We hope that in a very short time we'll have a better result to tell members of the public. The place where this incident happened is called Ojano. It's somewhere after Otukpo local government, a highway, federal highway, where these people were on transit actually from what we heard. And the men ran into them, started shooting, forcefully stopped that vehicle and intercepted them at that point where there was no police presence. So they took them a hostage until the information got to us.
Meanwhile, the Anambra State Commissioner for Youth Development, Mr. Patrick Ahamba, and wife have been reportedly kidnapped. Sources said an aide of the commissioner, whose name was given as Mr. Paji Ofia, an Onisha youth and Abga stalwart, who was traveling with them, was shot dead by the kidnappers. According to reports, they were on their way to Abuja for the white wedding of Governor Chukwuma Soludo's daughter, taking place on Saturday, August the 17th, when they were reportedly kidnapped. Confirming the incident, the press secretary to Governor Soludo, Mr. Christian Aburime, said the government was yet to find out the exact location where the incident happened as Ubiaja, Edo State. The federal government, through MedServ, the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority's wholly owned company, has commenced the construction of 10 new oncology and diagnostic centers across the country's 6 geopolitical zones. The inaugural groundbreaking ceremony took place in Bauchi State and was led by the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Ali Pate. This initiative aims to enhance access to world-class oncology care, among other health benefits. Our correspondent, Hajara Aliu, reports.
The federal government is taking a major step to address healthcare delivery in the country. The Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital in Bauchi is hosting the 10 oncology and diagnostic centers to be constructed by the federal government across the 6 geopolitical zones. Other centers will be in Kaduna, Enugu, Sokoto, Oyo, Akwa Ibom, Delta, Kwara, Plateau, and Yobe states. The project is being implemented under the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority Healthcare Expansion Program following the successful launch of the first phase 5 years ago.
Between 2020 March and today, we've attended to 131,000 patients in that Kano Diagnostic Center. Over close to 700,000 tests. Individual tests have been done between the laboratory and the imaging.
It is important that the quality of care that we offer citizens of Bauchi and Gombe is exactly the same as is obtainable anywhere else in the world.
The program is considered a key milestone in the federal government's efforts to improve the nation's healthcare sector.
The mandate is for a federal project. There are 10 such groundbreaking ceremonies as the one today going on all over the country. It is national, it is federal, it is carrying all parts of Nigeria along and delivering in this important area of health delivery.
There are 6 cancer centers that NSA is doing. I think the money is available and those will be completed within 12 to 18 months. They will be opened. It has never happened in the history of Nigeria. Mr. President has also undertaken retraining of 120,000 frontline health workers.
The host governor, Bala Muhammad, praised the president for his various health interventions in the state.
We appreciate good governance, and Nigerians appreciate good governance. With this outing, our politicians, our ministers are no longer armchair politicians sitting in the office, coming out and interacting with us, and giving us the good news and setting the roadmap for changing the narrative.
The coordinating Minister of Health performs the groundbreaking ceremony. In the second phase of the initiative, the federal government is targeting to train 120,000 frontline healthcare workers. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
Days after the End Bad Governance protest that rocked some parts of the country, legal luminary and founder of Babalola University Ado-Ekiti, Chief Babalola, says protesters were only expressing the reality of most Nigerians presently. Chief Babalola, who was speaking in Ekiti, says the government's reaction of distributing food palliatives after the protest is akin to turning Nigerians to beggars. According to him, the government should address the major concerns of the protesters, which is affecting the quality of life of most Nigerians.
Those people who are complaining about hunger are doing so sincerely. They are hungry. You don't have to use any lens. You do not need any rocket science before you can say that there is hunger in the country. There is indeed hunger. The protest was genuine, and we are consuming more than we are producing. And anybody who consumes more than what is producing will certainly become bankrupt one day or the other. The duty of the government is to encourage the people to produce or create enabling environment for people to produce. The problem we have now is that you cannot go out. Many farmers have left the farm. The coconuts are drying up on the farm. Everybody wants to stay in a place where peace is safe. The first duty of any government is to ensure that there's security for the people. That's the first problem. When the president was addressing those protesters, emphasis ought to have been put on the fact that this country will be safe for everybody to move up and down, go to the farm and do their farm work.
Just not mention of it.
No, there was no mention of that at all.
The National Peace Committee is promising to deepen partnership with the Nigeria Police to scale up the level of prosecution of election law offenders in the country. Co-chairman of the committee, General Abdulsalam Abubakar, stated this at a meeting in Abuja where the committee presented the report on the 2023 general elections.
Members of the press, I want to thank you for...
The former military head of state, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, and other members of the National Peace Committee are in this hall to brief journalists on the outcome of a closed-door meeting it held with the INEC chairman. The meeting reviewed the committee's report on the 2023 general elections and what it will do in the forthcoming off-cycle governorship elections in Edo and Ondo State.
What we normally do, there is going to be signing of the peace accord for the members of the stakeholders in Ondo and Edo State.
The former military head of state also speaks about collaborating with the police to scale up prosecution of electoral law offenders.
So far, I think some of those who were arrested during the last elections have been prosecuted, and I think I can't give you the number so far that have been prosecuted. But the rate of prosecution in the courts has not really been optimal. So we are going to take that up with the security agencies to ensure that offenders or malpractice offenders for the elections are really brought to book.
The committee then made a public presentation of its report on the 2023 general elections. The report made some key observations that impacted the credibility of the elections, including a lack of compliance with the electoral law, a lack of political awareness, and multiple technical glitches. Earlier, the INEC chairman told journalists on the sideline of a closed-door meeting with the National Peace Committee that he will deploy the INEC results viewing portal for the Edo and Ondo governorship elections.
The beavers will be deployed for accreditation of voters. It is now mandatory that all voters must be accredited electronically. And secondly, the results will be uploaded to the IRF portal from the polling units as soon as the processes are concluded.
INEC is conducting 2 off-cycle governorship elections in Edo and Ondo states this year. And the National Peace Committee vows to amplify the call for peaceful elections in the 2 states.
Ahead of the September 21st governorship election in Edo State, a civil society group, the Center for Credible Leadership and Citizens Awareness, and the coalition of INEC accredited observer organizations are asking the electoral umpire INEC and security agencies to maintain absolute neutrality in order to ensure a transparent, free, fair, and credible election in the state. Addressing a joint news conference in Abuja, the Director General of the Center, Mr. Gabriel Wabu, says it's crucial for the electoral umpire to issue permanent voter cards to all eligible voters in the state.
INEC's commitment to fairness and transparency in the electoral process is fundamental requirement for the success of the election on the 21st of September 2024. Secondly, we call on the law enforcement agencies, including the police, the DSS, the NSCDC, and the military, to refrain from harassing law-abiding Nigerians who carry out legitimate election duties in Edo State, including electorates and members of all registered political parties in Nigeria, irrespective of whether they are opposition political parties or the ruling party. Their role should be to ensure safety and security of all participants in the electoral process without fear or favor, in line with the established rule of engagement.
In part two after the break, Governor of River State Siminalayi Fubara ends contract extension for retired permanent secretaries in the state. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 live from Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. It's a sad day in Benway as some persons suspected to be gunmen abduct about 20 medical students on their way to Enugu State, just as the Anambra State Commissioner for Youth Development is abducted in a separate attack on his way to Kogi State. Federal government moves to upscale treatment of cancer and other diseases nationwide, breaks ground for the establishment of 10 new oncology and diagnostic centers across the country, starting from Bauchi State. Legal luminary and founder of Babalola University Ado-Ekiti, Chief Babalola describes the End Bad Governance protest that rocked some parts of the country as a reflection of the nation's situation, says protesters only expressing the reality of most Nigerians. As the governorship elections in Edo and Ondo states beckon, the National Peace Committee promises to work with the Nigeria police to scale up the level of prosecution of electoral offenders in the country. And Palestinian officials say a Palestinian man was shot dead as dozens of Israeli settlers attacked a village in the north of the occupied West Bank overnight, setting fire to houses and cars. President Bola Tinubu has arrived in the nation's capital of Abuja after a 3-day official visit to Malabo, the capital of Equatorial Guinea. During the visit, the president had some diplomatic and economic activities between Nigeria and Equatorial Guinea rolling, including the signing of the Gulf of Guinea Pipeline Agreement, the resuscitation of the Nigeria-Equatorial Guinea Joint National Commission, under which many other bilateral activities have been set in motion and to be activated in the month of November. President Tinubu had departed the Malabo International Airport at 4:03 p.m. this evening. River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has announced the termination of a long-standing practice that allowed retired permanent secretaries in the state civil service to continue working on contract after their official retirement. This practice is often criticized for hindering career progression among lower-level workers and seen as a means for politicians to reward loyalists. The governor made the comment at the swearing-in ceremony of 6 new permanent secretaries at the Government House in Port Harcourt.
It is a call to service. It is not for you to feel that you're bigger than every other person that you're going to work with. I've taken a decision that going forward, I do not want to give contract services to permanent secretaries anymore. Because if we continue to do it, there won't be room for the ones that are coming behind. So as soon as the permanent secretary retires, he will leave and we'll get a new person to replace.
Meanwhile, the caretaker committee chairman of the All Progressives Congress, APC in River State, Mr. Tony Okocha, is raising an alarm over a plot to hijack the party in the state by some persons with a view to subordinating it to the state government as part of efforts to frustrate the re-election of President Bola Tinubu come 2027. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, Mr. Okocha claims that one Emeka Beke and Ihai Chukwudike had long been suspended from the State Working Committee based on allegations of engaging in anti-party activities. He explains that the APC was never part of the suit filed by Mr. Beke, and only its national chairman, Abdullahi Ganduje, was listed, saying it is wrong for the trial judge to have made orders on parties who were never joined in the suit.
You would have heard some few days back, precisely on the 12th of August 2024, that a court sitting in River State dissolved the caretaker committee and enthroned the dissolved chairman and the legal advisor of the party that were suspended by members of their state working committee. And recall, the other time when I came, I'm looking for that, my friend, when I said that the trial judge, was out for a hatchet job, he quaked and said to me that it was hard. But I knew that I was speaking from the point of knowledge. I wasn't speaking loosely. I had my facts and my figures. And today I'll be giving you documents that will amaze you. You're aware that Supreme Court has said over time that intra-party matter is beyond the ambits of the law to interfere. Because it is not the court that will decide for a political party who their chairman is.
The Court of Appeal Abuja has set aside the orders by Justice Inyang Ekwo of the Federal High Court, Abuja, barring 3 chieftains of the People's Democratic Party from further attending any meeting of the party's National Executive Committee or participating in deliberations or proceedings of the meetings in any manner. The PDP chieftains are the party's former national chairman, Uche Secondus, sacked Rivers Governor Celestine Omehia, and a former Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Austin Okpara. In 3 separate judgments, a 3-member panel of the court unanimously upheld the appeals filed by Mr. Secondus, Omehia, and Okpara for being meritorious. Now, the appellate court held that the issue of whether members of a party should attend the party's meetings or participate in any of its activities are issues to be determined by the political party. The appellate court was of the view that issues relating to whether or not members of a political party attend the party's meetings, being internal affairs of the party, are not justiciable and on which the court lacked jurisdiction. The court held that the Federal High Court ought not to have entertained the cases because it lacked the jurisdiction to hear and determine the suits dealing with issues within the realm of the internal affairs of the political party. While the governorship candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Olushola Ebiseni, is reaffirming his commitment to go ahead as the candidate of the party for the November 16th governorship elections. He reaffirmed this decision during a meeting with the Labour Party local government chairman at the party secretariat in the state, where he highlighted his emergence as a candidate and the need to build a new Ondo state.
The Ondo State Secretariat of the Labour Party is hosting a meeting between the governorship candidate, Mr. Olushola Ebiseni, and the party's local government chairman ahead of the state election.
Solidarity forever. We shall always fight our right.
The governorship candidate gave a brief background on his roots with Labour Party and the Obi Dati campaign effort.
I was a member of the National Campaign Council of Obidati Presidential Organization, but I was specifically the Southwest coordinator for Labour Party during the presidential election held about a year ago. Last Tuesday, I was here on the streets of our capital city, Akure, to launch Labour Party anew. We went around Akure city, and notwithstanding the fact that we came behind some other political parties that have been here earlier, it was evident that we were the people Ondo State was waiting for.
Labour Party held power in the state from 2009 to 2017 under former Governor Olusegun Mimiko, and the candidate is pledging to rebuild the state.
Party we put in place in Nigeria was in Ondo State, 2009 to 2017, 8 solid years. I was part of that government from beginning to the end. First as chairman, Law Commission, and 2 times as commissioner in that government.
After the meeting, the spokesperson for the local government chairman reels out some of their decisions.
During the July primary election, we were all here to say no to Dr. Oluwafemi. That we never see him from Hada. In all our struggle, we've never seen him, we've never knew him. Let him come out to challenge me as a person.
The governorship candidate is optimistic that the party will emerge victorious during the governorship election.
So let's head to the nation's capital, and Gloria Umezuke is standing by to give us the very latest from our Abuja studio. Over to you, Gloria.
Thank you, Ayo. We turn attention now to the National Judicial Council, which has resolved to issue a letter of advice to Honorable Justice Olusegun Olagunju of the Oyo State High Court to be circumspect as a judicial officer before acting, even in the most challenging situation. The resolution was made after the council considered the report of the committee it set up and mandated it to invite the honorable judge to appear before it to defend his uncouth language in a letter addressed to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, challenging the council's decision vis-à-vis its policy direction on appointment of President of the Court, the customary Court of Appeal. A statement by the NJC's Director of Information, Mr. Soji Oye, said the Council at its meeting also considered the report of its Preliminary Complaints Assessment Committee on 22 petitions written against 27 judicial officers of the Federal and State High Courts, and decided to set up 4 committees to investigate allegations in the petitions that were found meritorious. The remaining 18 petitions were discountenanced for lack of merit, for being abandoned or being sub judice. Council also placed 5 judges on its pre-sanctioned watch list register for poor performance. They will be recommended to the Council for appropriate sanction if they do not improve on their performance. Members of the Council also eulogized the outgoing CJN and chairman, wishing him good health in retirement. Still ahead on the news at 10, federal government slashes internal revenue deduction from aviation agencies to 20% from 50% following earlier planned nationwide strike by unions. Well, that's in business news. Please join us again. Welcome back. You're still watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television. The United Nations Human Rights Commission is partnering with the German government to scale up activities on durable solutions to the conflict and resettlement for internally displaced persons in Benway State. The Assistant High Commissioner for Operations at the UNHCR, Mr. Raouf Mazou, disclosed this at a meeting with Governor Hyacinth Alia at the Government House, Makurdi, the state capital. Meanwhile, foreign donors are in the state to assess the conditions of displaced persons.
A delegation from the United Nations Human Rights Commission, led by the Assistant High Commissioner for Operations and the German Ambassador to Nigeria, are in Makurdi for a multi-level doable solutions meeting with Governor Hyacinth Alia of Benway State. It's been almost a decade since attacks on Bedouin communities left over 2 million persons displaced with escalating humanitarian crisis. The situation is getting global attention.
Of course, the issue of internal displacement is a very serious one, generally speaking in Nigeria, but particularly in Benway State.
That leadership is very much needed, and then the international community, be it the donors, be it the UN family, we can come in and help and complement what you are doing.
Governor Hyacinth Alia then leads the delegation to the Ishua IDP camp in the state capital, Makurdi. He engages with the delegation on the plight of the IDPs, with assurance to the IDPs that help is on the way.
Now that they have seen
We already met at the government house. I explained deeper your plight, and they have come so that they will join forces with us in this collaboration and partnership to ensure that your sufferings are so minimized, and then for us to dig some path forward to ensuring that you are back to your homelands.
All the parties agreed to build the economic recovery plan of the Benway Investment Property Company, where staff of the state-owned company are sourced from the IDPs. From the bread-making factory to the water processing plants, the delegation inspects some of the IDPs and refugees at work.
Now, when we introduce our factory, the bread and the water and other businesses, some of the IDPs applied. So we said it's better for us to, to reintegrate them back to business instead of every month or every year they are coming to give them some international fund or support.
The delegation hopes that the economic recovery plan gives the displaced persons and the refugees another chance to return to their normal lives.
The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Idris, has urged international media outlets to adhere to the principles of fairness, accuracy and objectivity in their reporting on issues concerning Nigeria. Mr. Idris stated this when he received a delegation from the British Broadcasting Corporation in Abuja. He says while the policy thrust of the Tinubu administration remains upholding the freedom of the press, the government expects international media organizations to express due diligence in their reportage. The minister emphasized the importance of balanced and unbiased reporting and highlighted that while Nigeria, like any other country, faces challenges, it is crucial for the international media to provide a complete and nuanced portrayal rather than focusing solely on negative aspects.
This partnership goes back several decades. And that commitment to what we hear on the BBC and the respect and the trust that our people have been largely unbroken in the last 5-6 decades. I'm aware that your house of service is now here in our premises, and like I was telling you, we were missing the signature of London Together. I mean, this London, I mean, in Hausa. I mean, now it's Abuja Together, so we recognize and we appreciate that you're moving your news from your news gathering operation closer to where the audiences and the markets are. The Nigerian authorities, particularly this administration, is committed to ensuring that practitioners in the area of media and journalism generally do their operations freely without any form of interference, and we intend to keep it so. But we also urge you to continue to balance the stories, to hear our side, to give our own side of the story. It's not only the bad news that comes out of Nigeria, a lot of good things. I'm sure your press conference on ground will have seen that. We have a lot of positive things that we're doing in this country, and there is a gradual progression towards prosperity that we're seeing. Of course, we know that we have these challenges occasioned by some of the reforms that the government has undertaken. But we know that we will let it stop, and we know that we'll get there.
Well, that's it from the nation's capital. For more on the news at 10, it's back to you, Ayo, in Lagos.
Thank you so much, Gloria. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tugar, says subnational actors such as states should not enter foreign or international negotiations without the input of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the federal government. He was speaking on the efforts being made to resolve the dispute with a Chinese company, which has led to the seizure of 3 jets of the federal government by a French court.
Yes, the Attorney General and I are working on it, both diplomatically and then from the legal perspective as well, to ensure that this issue is resolved. But you see, again, this is part of the problem when subnational actors like state governments take it upon themselves to go into agreements, go into international arrangements without recourse to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, without recourse to the federal government. And then when it goes awry, we are left with the the problem to deal with. And that is why it's always important that such arrangements should be registered with the mission there, with the embassy, with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and with the federal government. This is something that Ogun State, under a different administration, not this governor, entered into that we're not aware of. All we know is that, they're going after Nigerian assets. That's why really foreign or international negotiations is not the purview of subnational actors.
Time now for some business news with Will Ebong.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Ayotunde, and welcome to Business News. Now, President Bola Tinubu has directed that the deductions from internally generated revenue from aviation agencies be reduced from 50% to 20%. And this was made known today through the Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development. The move comes after the aviation unions earlier in the week threatened to commence nationwide strike over the 50% deduction in revenue generated by their agencies, a policy the workers argue undermines their operational efficiency and financial stability. The various aviation unions leaderships, which include employees of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, Nigerian Airspace Management Agency, are currently meeting with the Managing Director of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAN, to take a position on the new developments. Now, the three tiers of governments, that's the federal government, states and local government councils, have shared a slightly higher total sum of 1.358 trillion naira as the Federation accounts revenue for July. According to a document from the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, the federal government received a sum of 433.07 billion naira. The state governments got a sum of 473.47 billion naira. Local governments councils received 343.7 billion naira, while the sum of 109.81 billion naira was shared to the benefiting states as 13% of mineral revenue derivation revenue from the total amount. At the same time, 1.387 billion naira was received as gross statutory revenue for the month, which was lower by 45.51 billion naira than the 1.432 billion naira received in the month of June. Meanwhile, the balance in the excess crude accounts remained unchanged at $473,754. Now, the target of sourcing 30% of Nigeria's energy from renewables by 2030 is one the Minister of Power, Mr. Adebayo Adelabu, says is determined to achieve. The minister, who toured some energy solutions in Lagos, says the target is only achievable through partnership between the government and the stakeholders in the private sector. Now, about 32.04 million naira was lost to mild profit taking by investors at the domestic stock market today as NGX all-share index declined by nearly insignificant margin and maintaining the losing streak for a fifth consecutive session. Inijan Mekwa has the details.
Thank you so much, Will. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. At the end of Friday straight, we see that the battle between the bull and the bear left just a little bit of change in the market. So we have to keep our eyes on the details on this one now. The market opened at 97,100.36 and now has closed at 97,100.31. So just about 5 points lost, but so largely unchanged, even though some points shaved off the all-share index. Market cap is still around 55.1 trillion naira. Now let's look at the details of this, beginning with the Fugas, the big guys. FBN Holding and UBA, they were down today. But we see GTCO, Accessco, Zenith Bank recovering and keeping that a positive sentiment for that counter. And then when we look at the sectors, let's let's look at other counters apart from banking and others in the financial sector. Oil and gas retains the green color from yesterday. O&O and Japogo, they're still the main players. 0.13% in the green. Consumer goods is, however, down. I think some of those flour mills are contributing to that. And yes, we talked about the Fugas there. We see that they have a green color at the end of the day. So the sound of the bear is not so loud, but it's still the bear.
Thank you, Ini. Loud or not, it's still the bear. Let's take a look at the snapshots of major global markets.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial star 894 hash now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you so much, Will. U.S. Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris has announced a sweeping set of economic goals to build new homes, cut taxes for families, and a ban on grocery price gouging. Here's Simon Pusey with other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Officials say a Palestinian man was shot dead as dozens of Israeli settlers attacked a village in the north of the occupied West Bank overnight, setting fire to houses and cars. The settlers, some wearing masks, also threw rocks and Molotov cocktails in the village of Jit, the Israeli Defense Forces said, adding that one was arrested. The Palestinian Health Ministry said Rashid Seda was killed by gunfire from the settlers and another man was seriously wounded in what it condemned as an act of organised state terrorism. The IDF said it was looking into the reports of a fatality. Ukraine has told residents to evacuate the Russian city of Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region as it continues its incursion into the country. It comes as an aide to the Kremlin has claimed that NATO and the West were directly involved in the planning for Ukraine's attack, something the White House has denied. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian military brigade released a video claiming to show the first day of Ukraine's incursion into the Russian town of Shudza. The advances are the largest attack on Russia since World War II and have overturned a perception of a fading Ukraine on the back foot. Travellers should consider getting vaccinated against Mpox if they will be visiting areas affected in Africa. That's according to new advice. The European Centre for Disease Protection and Control has updated its recommendations in response to outbreaks of a new strain of the virus. Other continents, including Europe, can expect some cases too. The centre says the risk of it spreading everywhere is low, despite the World Health Organization recently declaring the Mpox situation a global emergency. The disease, formerly known as monkeypox, can be passed on by close contact with anyone with the infection. A World Health official has said the humanitarian crisis from the civil war in Sudan is also exacerbating infections including cholera, and the bacterial disease has killed more than 300 people in the region. Margaret Harris said that 11,327 cholera cases with 316 deaths had been reported, and that dengue fever and meningitis infections were also on the rise. Global monitors say more than 6 million people face food insecurity across Darfur, which is mostly controlled by the Rapid Support Forces.
We are seeing reports of cholera, measles, malaria, dengue, meningitis from several states. So far, we've had 11,327 cholera cases reported from 12 states with 316 deaths. Now, the reporting is slow, so we expect that there is more than that, but that's what we've had reported.
Hurricane Ernesto is heading for Bermuda, having crossed Puerto Rico, where it left more than half of homes and businesses without power. With wind gusts of up to 100 miles per hour, Ernesto has now strengthened to a Category 2 hurricane. It warns that Ernesto could be near major hurricane strength on Friday and is expected to pass near or over Bermuda on Saturday. A dangerous storm surge with large and destructive waves and significant coastal flooding are expected. Thailand has their youngest prime minister ever after Paetongtarn Shinawatra was elected to office. Known in Thailand by her nickname Ung Ing, Ms Paetongtarn has become a very familiar figure here since leading her party Pheu Thai in the general election last year. In her first comments as Prime Minister-elect, Paetongtarn said she had been saddened and confused by ally Srettha Thavisin's dismissal as Premier and decided it was time to step up. She will become Thailand's second female Prime Minister and third Shinawatra to take the top job after her aunt Yingluck Shinawatra and father Thaksin Shinawatra, the country's most influential and polarising politician. And Hong Kong has welcomed the birth of a set of giant panda twins born to Ying Ying, who is a first-time mother. The birth was celebrated as a true rarity, the city's theme park said in a statement, as Ying Ying has become the oldest giant panda to give birth a day shy of her 90th birthday. The cubs were born in the early hours of Thursday after a nearly 5-month pregnancy. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Many thanks indeed, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. Former Super Eagles head coach Samson Siase is set to return to football again after serving a 5-year ban imposed by the world governing football body FIFA. Initially a lifetime penalty, the ban was reduced to 5 years by the Court of Arbitration for Sports, CAS, in 2019. The 57-year-old remains the only Nigerian coach to win silver and bronze medals at the Olympic Games men's football tournament in 2008 and 2016. Let's turn to the English Premier League now, where debutant Joshua Zirkzee helped Manchester United kick off the new Premier League season with a win. Zirkzee scored the only goal of the game in the 87th minute as United beat Fulham 1-0. The Dutch international saved the Red Devils from a frustrating evening at Old Trafford when he turned in Alejandro Garnacho's cross. But we stay with the EPL as Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta wants the Gunners to step up to another level this season if they are to win the Premier League after 2 agonizing near misses. The last season's runners-up ended with 89 points and scored more goals, but conceded fewer than the previous campaign. The Gunners will hope their campaign against Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday goes on the positive.
After the season, we had 2 objectives. The main one and the most important one is make sure that we're still very, very much in love with our players and find ways to improve them, because that's the main thing. And then, okay, if there are certain opportunities in the market to improve the squad, certainly we have to look at that, and that's what we're trying to do. Well, this is the demands that we put internally, that they have to be much higher than anybody can ever think of putting us in any position that we feel the pressure.
Let's cross over to Spain, where Argentine forward Julian Alvarez says he accepted to leave Manchester City for Atletico Madrid because he needed a new challenge with the Spanish side. Alvarez completed his move to the Spanish Giants for $104 million and was unveiled at a press conference earlier today. Atletico Madrid begins their La Liga campaign on August 19 away at Villarreal. And that's your Sports News tonight. I'm Kelly Egiga. It's back to you today.
Many thanks, Kelly. And the main news again. It was a sad day today in Benway State as some persons suspected to be gunmen abducted about 20 medical students on their way to Enugu State, just as the Anambra State Commissioner for Youth Development was also abducted in a separate attack on his way to Kogi State. We also told you the federal government commenced the construction of 10 new oncology and diagnostic centers across the country's 6 geopolitical zones. The aim is to enhance access to world-class oncology care, as well as reduce cancer-related deaths in Nigeria. Legal luminary and founder of Babalola University in Ado-Ekiti, Chief Babalola, described the End Bad Governance protest that rocked some parts of the country as a reflection of the nation's situation. Says the protesters only express the reality of most Nigerians today. Now, the National Police Committee have promised to work with the Nigeria Police to scale up the level of prosecution of electoral offenders in the country as the governorship elections in Edo and Ondo states beckon. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Abiodun. Do have a good night and please stay safe.